Now, to begin with this, first of all, we need to know where is that the place where you have to write the program. Like for other programs, for other languages, you go and download these softwares, right? We call them IDE actually. But for VBA, you don't have to, because this Excel provides you the VBA, that the platform, the place inside this, within this only. So where to go? Well, you see this developer tab, guys. I know all of you have a good, not good, but I mean, VBA. I know that you have seen the codes, right? But still, I like to go and, talk about this from the very scratch. This developer tab generally is not available by default in Excel, right? So if you're using Excel 2010, 2013, or 2016, right? Office 365, the first thing is that we need to have this developer tab activated. So all of you will go to your file and you will click on this options, file and options. When you click on the file at the option here in the customers ribbon, you have this option developer. By default, this is always off. It's never activated, right? One time activity you have to do, and then this will be applied for all the Excel workbooks. Before you ask me, so is this going to be done every time when I have a new workbook? No. Once you activate this will always be available, even for new workbooks. So since this is already activated, right? But you have to do this. Once you do this, you will have here the developer tab immediately. You need not to restart the Excel. Okay. Once we go in the developer tab, we have this window, Visual Basic macros, record macros. We are going to talk about this. The first thing which I want to do is, let me show you where is the VBA. I've been talking so much on this now. Let me take you quickly to this Visual Basic. Okay, let's click on this. The moment you click on this, you find here another window. This is your Visual Basic editor. We call this VBA editor, right? Now this, I can't really go and write anything here. I'm going to tell you that. First of all, as a beginner, you have to be comfortable in this, in maximizing it, in minimizing it, because many times when you start programming, you get confused here. You may click here somewhere, just unknowingly, and the option will go off, and then you will struggle to find that option back on the screen. So I'm going to tell you everything from the scratch. Okay, now for example, if you go and say maximize, this will be maximized like Excel does maximize. You see you have the screen maximized. If you want to just go and restore it, you can do it. You can even resize this. You see that? Right? Now, what is the best view? What is the best view of this? Like for example, you can ask me, how much height I have to go and use this. Is there any recommendation? Well, there's no recommendation. The thing is that when you write the program, you should be able to see what is going to happen in the Excel. Because once you have written the program, you will go and do the testing, correct? Now, for example, now you have maximized the screen and now you're going to run the program. If you run the program, are you going to see what is happening in Excel? No. Then what is the use of it? I have written a 50 line code and I want to run it step by step because I'm doing the testing. I can't send you the code if I'm not happy with the VBA, the code I have prepared, or I'm not actually 100% convinced that this is actually the code is going to work. This has no error, isn't it? Then I have to test the code. Now, if I'm going to do the testing, how will I do? I will test each line, all my 100 lines. I'm going to test them one by one. If I'm testing them, the moment I run the first line, the moment I'm going to do the testing on the first line, do I not need to see that how it is actually performing, what is happening in Excel, right? So that's why if I have this kind of a screen, it will not make any sense. So we will always keep the window like this. Now, depending upon your own comfort level, you can increase or decrease so that we can also see what is happening here. I'm going to tell you this. Okay, just give me the idea. Now, once this VBA editor is coming, let me maximize it. Now, let's say guys, You don't see anything here. I'm closing everything. I'm closing all the options because I want to tell you everything from the scratch. Most of the time, these are the by default options which you will get on your screen, but you should know that how actually they have appeared. This is exactly the blank window of VBA. This will be there. These are all the tabs of VBA editor. You can't remove them, right? You can click on them like this, right? So this is a very, very raw format layout of this VBA editor. The very first thing which we want to do is, the first thing you do is you go and immediately view and you say that I want my project explorer here, Control R. You can even use the Control R shortcut key. Don't use this in Excel. I mean, this is for VBA, right? Project Explorer. They may ask you in your interview, what is a Project Explorer? Then you have to tell them this. First, click on this. The moment you click on the Project Explorer, you find here that there is a project coming. By mistake, if you click here and it's gone, don't call me. Then I can't see that Project Explorer. By mistake, I closed it. You should know that. Control R or go back and say Project Explorer. What is the benefit of this? The benefit of this is that the moment I click on this sheet 1, I have that window where I'm actually going to work. Now, in your case, generally by default, the window comes whiteboard. I have done some formatting just because, I like this sort of the color because I've been teaching now VBA from 10 years and I kind of wanted to change. So few months back, I think maybe 2 months back, I changed my this view. I'm going to tell you all that, right? How, because generally the screen view is always white, but that's not really important. By default view is the best view, but I just changed this to blue. Okay, so that I'll tell you later once we are done with this session. It's very simple. Okay, your focus should be that what I'm going to write here. Now you see, I can write here. This is my whiteboard. You can say this is actually your IDE. You can say that integrated development environment, right? So here, whatever program I will write, that will go and run for my this sheet. What is the name of the sheet? Sheet 1. How this sheet 1 is coming, by the way? Well, this is coming from here. Okay, if I change this to, let's say, discussion. Right? Now what will happen? Let's see that. You see that? The name is changed. This is the index. This will remain as it is. So whatever the program I will write, that will belong to sheet 1 only. Now what if I have another sheet? Then what? Let's say this is another sheet and I give it a name called demo. Now for demo, you have to go inside the demo. You see demo is created now. Now what I write here, whatever I will write here, that belongs to my demo sheet. Now the next question is, what if I want to write a program which should actually work for the entire workbook? I don't want to write anything specific to the sheet. Then what? Do you see this workbook? This is not a sheet name. This has a different icon. You will always find this workbook. Let's go here. Now, whatever you write here, guys, you write here, that basically will be applied to each and every sheet of this workbook. So now you understand the difference. If I write the code inside this, what will happen? If I write the code inside this, what will happen? If I write the code inside this, what will happen? But wait a second. We are not going to write the code anywhere here. Why? Because here you write those programs which runs on the conditions you have given. Like you want to run this program whenever this workbook gets opened. Generally when you create the macros, they don't run if you don't want them to be run, isn't it? I mean, you create a button, you click on that and the macro fires. Everything is under your control, right? But here, if you write something this workbook, then these are called the self-driven macros. In other words, they look for the condition, and if the condition gets satisfied, they immediately fire. They immediately run. We don't need to learn all this right now. This is the one of the I would say the toughest thing in VBA, which we will understand in the coming chapters, not in this chapter, not in this series right now. But I'm just trying to give you the idea here. If you write something that is not going to run when you actually want, right? Here we write those things which are conditional based. Like if I activate this sheet, I want that by default some macro should run. If I close this file, I want some macro should run. If I delete some sheet, I want some macro should fire. So they will not wait for you. If I do any changes in the sheet, I want by default automatically a macro should fire. Doing what? Well, let's not get into that. So then the question comes, and same applies for this. If I write something here, that will be applied for the demo sheet only. But again, that will be basically a conditional based macro. Like if I delete the sheet, if I rename this sheet, if I do some changes in the sheet, do I want to do something? Like that. So these are called the events. Okay, or you can say self-triggered macros. They automatically get triggered because they actually work on the conditions, that if this condition is going to be true, I'll run it. Condition, of course, you will give, it's in your control, but right now we are not going to talk about that. We want a macro which when I want to run, I can run. I'll click on the button and the macro fires. That's called the standard place for the macros. What is the standard place? Well, modules. Go in the insert and create a module. So we will go and create every program in the modules. This is, you have to just completely defocus from here. Okay, when the right time comes, we will talk about that. We will go and write everything in the module. Now, whatever you write in the module, guys, that will never run by itself. That's not the condition. That's these programs which you write here in the modules, they will run when you want. You will have an option to run it. Okay, how many modules you can insert? Yeah, well, you can insert module 1, module 2. It's up to you. I'll tell you what is the need to create the different modules. We'll talk about that. Right now, I just want to delete all. Okay, so right click and say remove. By mistake, I created. Do you want to export this module? I mean, do you want to save this somewhere before deleting? No, I don't want to save it. So click on the no. Okay, so today, when you go back home, you should be comfortable with all these. Can I insert the module? Can I delete the module? Where is the project explorer? What if I close it? So now tell me one thing. If you close this, for example, now how do you know where exactly you are? On which module you are? You have created 10 modules for different 10 programs. Can you identify? If you have to go to the module 9, can you go? No, you can't. That's why project explorer is required. And suppose if somebody told you or tells you that you have to write a program for demo sheet only. And what is that program? Well, I want that this sheet should never get deleted. In Excel I can delete it, but through VBA you can stop that. How? Well, you say that whenever the sheet get deleted, automatically let's fire a macro which should stop that deleting the demo file. How will you do it? Well, you will go and write some program here which I will tell you in the coming sessions, in the new chapters, new series, not in this, right? But what if you don't have this platform? If you don't have the project explorer, how will you write it? So now you know the importance of project explorer, right? If I lose this project explorer site, I can say control R. Let me press control R. There we go. And if they ask you, so on the menu tab where exactly it is, you can tell them that this is on the view project explorer. We also call it a tree because this you can expand this, you can collapse this. It's like these are called the branches. like this. So we also call it a tree, VBA tree. So now we know where exactly it is, what is the shortcut key, and now we know what is the importance of it. The most important part. What is the importance of Project Explorer? If I don't have a Project Explorer, where I'm going to write the code? Sir, I will not be able to see my modules. I will not be able to see the sheet names. And you know, the codes are always written on these platforms. I mean, either on the modules or on the sheet. So if I don't see that, how will I write the code? So that's why I need the Project Explorer, right? So this is the first thing, you should know it. Now, let's quickly go and do a recording and let us see how the VBA, the program gets created. Now you see, there are two things. One is macro recording. One is when you write the program, right? When you, which means user, writes the program, right? And then people call it actually VBA. So what is the difference between macro recording and when the user creates the program? Now this question can't be answered if you do not know that how the macro recording works and how to edit it, and then you start writing your own programs also. So we will go and see this. We will come back to this question little later, okay? But this is a general thing, which it always bothers you, that is macro recording different from VBA or are they same, right? There can't be a specific answer for that. So first of all, let's quickly see what is a macro recording. Now you see, I can take the help of my Excel also by saying that please record the steps for me. I don't know anything. I don't know the how to write the program. I don't have a technical background, right? So I want your help. How? Well, when you say record, whatever steps you will do in Excel, a program will be created for you. You have to come back here to say that stop, and then Excel will stop it for you. And during that process from recording to stopping, whatever the number of things you have done in Excel, they will have a syntax, programming syntax, VBA syntax generated by Excel. Now that's wonderful. It's a very good news. Then what is the need for me to learn it, isn't it? Well, of course, because it has some limitations. Not some actually, it has a lot of limitations, but at the same time, for the beginners, this is the best friend. This is your best friend. This can do a lot of good work for you. And I'm going to tell you all this. How? Right? The first thing, I'm going to record this. So now you need the developer tab, isn't it? You need the developer tab because I want to go here, right? Now, before I go, I want to tell you that you can even go and use the Alt F11 if you want to jump onto the VBA editor from Excel, or you can click on Visual Basic also. But let's say I press Alt F11. You see that? I'm here, right? I'm here. So Alt F11 is the shortcut key, which you should know. It's a shortcut key to go to the VBA editor. Okay, and what is the shortcut key to activate the Project Explorer? Control R. Here, I mean, that's only for Visual Basic. When you go here, and let's say if you don't have this option, by default you will always get this option. But by mistake, let's say you have closed it, you can press Control R here. Okay, so that's a VBA. So now you know Control R. Or otherwise, it's available in the View section also. It's there. For example, go in the Visual Basic, click on the View, and this is your Project Explorer. You should know both ways. Now, What I'm going to do is, guys, I'm going to simply record a macro, a very simple macro. Where what I will be doing is, I will be going in every cell here and I will be creating some monthly invoice, right? And then we will go and discuss that what happens when you select the cells, and then what happens when you select the sheet, when you go from one sheet to another sheet, because this is the very first basic thing we should know in VBA: how to select the cells, how to move from one sheet to another. After all, this is what you have to do in VBA, in Excel, isn't it? Excel is about what? Working with the sheets, and in the sheets you have a data which is stored in the cells. So all the time you are busy with the Excel sheets or cells, isn't it? So that's the first thing we should know: how to select a cell, how to select a sheet using VBA.